This won't be another success story. This is the story of total failure. If the algorithm brought you here, I don't even know what to say. Maybe you're just another talented loser like me. When I was 12, I thought I'd be a scientist. When I was 18, I thought I'd be rich. When I was 24, I thought I'd be happy. Now, I'm 27. I haven't left my home in 3 years because martial law has been imposed in my country. I'm a ghost, and I don't know how long this will last. If martial law is already in its 4th year, maybe it'll be another 4. Maybe my country is slowly becoming a hypocritical North Korea for the next decade. And this is my confession. What hurts most is that I tried. I really did. I got into a specialized school when I was 6. The average IQ in my class was 135. I did sports on the side, won regional competitions. In every group I joined, I was in the top 10%. And now, I'm nothing. Why? Because the system works in a completely different way than what I was told as a kid. If you're a boy, learn to be shameless. That skill beats all soft and hard skills combined. If you're a girl, learning how to use a push-up bra beats reading 100 books. This video isn't about how to succeed, it's about how not to do. Because when it comes to ending up at the bottom of the social ladder, I'm a fucking expert. If you've had a similar story, I'd love to read your comment. But I'll probably get none. Even in that, I'm a loser. Still, I'll keep trying. Maybe that's the only thing I know how to do. Based on my observations, there are 4 main factors for success in life, and I have been unlucky in all 4. May you be more fortunate. The first point. Everything depends on it the most. It all starts with where you're born. I went through a list of everyone I personally know who lives in the upper middle class or higher. Result? 80% of them were born into that class. Interestingly, that my statistics coincide with the official statistics of sociologists. Being born into the right family, that's already 80% of success. If, on the other hand, you were born into the bottom 20%, your chances of reaching upper middle class are around 4 to 6% according to US statistics. But fine, let's not whine. Let's say you're aiming for the remaining 20%. Where does that success come from? Once again, mostly from your starting position. These are usually people born with extraordinary genetic advantages. Maybe it's a guy with god-tier physicality and reflexes, the kind that becomes a pro athlete. Think LeBron James or Giannis. Born gifted. You're not competing with their work ethic. You're competing with their DNA. Or it's women who are genetically blessed with exceptional beauty. And by 18, they already have doors open to them that the average looking will never even see. Or it's the naturally charismatic, high-energy ones. You know who I'm talking about. People who light up every room, effortlessly make friends, get into relationships, and attract success like a magnet. And no, don't give me that "they worked on themselves" narrative. 90% of the time, they were just born that way. The second biggest factor that determines your future is the era you were born into, and which social elevators are actually working in that era. 100 years ago, during heavy industrialization, the economy rewarded factory workers. People working on assembly lines were valuable, and the economy treated them as such. Then came the post-industrial era, where bureaucrats and the service economy became dominant. That's when lawyers, economists, salesmen, and brokers were making real money. After that came the information era. In that era, the top earners were those who could manipulate information: marketers, copywriters, SEO people, basically anyone who could extract value by moving attention. And finally, we entered what I call the post-information era. It was defined by the rise of social media, and in this era, the primary social elevator has been your visual presence online. If you wanted to succeed in this age, you needed to be good-looking. Ideally, a good-looking girl, because sociologists have documented that girls receive 7 times more visual attention than boys. And a beautiful girl? She receives 17 times more attention than an average-looking one. That's not hype, it's tested. A beautiful girl on social media is, in herself, a source of retention. And retention is the primary currency for modern algorithms. So in the last decade, the people who truly rose through the digital class system were beautiful women and extremely charismatic, high-energy men. Guys like Mr. Beast, not particularly handsome, but so expressive and explosive that his face demands clicks. His CTR is freakishly high. That's what defined this era: hot girls and extreme characters. And now, on the opposite side, if you were born in the 90s or early 2000s, and your parents told you things like, study hard, work hard, be useful to society, they weren't lying to you. They just belonged to a different era, an era where hard skills and knowledge actually mattered. Today, that's worthless. We live in a world where knowledge has been zeroed out. All the world's information is now in everyone's pocket. Skills? Also zeroed out. ChatGPT can now outperform 87% of doctors in diagnostic accuracy. Expertise doesn't matter anymore. What matters today is image. There was a brilliant experiment. They took a world-class doctor and dressed him in a plain sweater. Next to him, they put a medical intern, a C student, but dressed him in a clean white coat, sharp posture, confident eyes. They invited people in for consultations. Guess who they trusted more? Of course, the guy in the white coat. People said, "That man in the sweater? He doesn't look like a real doctor. But that guy in the coat, I trust him." That's how the world works now. People believe the picture, not the substance. That's why when you see a psychologist or life coach online, 90% of the time it's a conventionally attractive woman sitting in a luxury apartment. Why? Because everyone wants to be her. No one cares what she's saying. They want to be the image, to be the beautiful woman in the beautiful setting. And this isn't some complaint about how unfair the world is. This is a reminder. You have to play by the rules of the game you're in. Practical example? Not long ago, I signed up for a dating app. At first, I used a photo of myself in a winter jacket. Crickets. 0 likes. Then I changed the photo. Red t-shirt, decent lighting. Boom. Suddenly, girls were liking me non-stop. Same face, same guy, different jacket. That's all it took. And it reminded me of Martin Eden by Jack London. At the end of the novel, Martin says, "I'm still the same Martin Eden." But people's reactions had completely changed. Same with me. The world treated me like a reject, until I swapped the winter coat for a red shirt. Suddenly, I wasn't a loser anymore. I was someone. All because of optics. And what's ironic? As a teenager, I was solving integrals of differential equations. But it took me until adulthood to realize that people respect you more if your clothes match the image in their heads. The absurdity of reality is right in front of us. We just don't want to accept how dumb and simple it really is. So, the second rule is the era you're born into, and the social elevators that work during that era. This works even on a smaller scale. Let's say you chose an industry that's in decline. It doesn't matter if you're not in the top 10%. You could be in the top 1%, and you'll still get nothing. Why? Because you're doing something no one needs anymore. You're mastering an irrelevant skill set. You're fighting a battle that ended 10 years ago. And now, the third factor that impacts results more than anything: appearance. For girls, this is the single most important thing in life. Because if a girl is beautiful, the whole world opens up to her. She walks through doors others don't even know exist. But if she's not beautiful, she'll have to compete with men on equal terms. And let's be honest, she won't win. Because competing with men in the open field is a game where she has no leverage. And the fourth factor, I'd say, is luck. No matter what people say, luck is a massive deal. Because based on what I've seen, a new market or industry often appears, and around 10,000 people jump into it. Out of those 10,000, only 100 succeed. And no, it's not always because they were the best. Sometimes it's just the algorithm, the timing, the random pattern. The dice landed their way. It's math. In a pool of 10,000, only 100 could have made it, no matter how good the rest were. So 1% got lucky. The other 99% vanished, forgotten. That said, there's one insight here. If you don't give up after your first attempt, and instead make 10 attempts, your odds go up. Now you've got 10 rolls of the dice instead of 1. But even then, this grind your way to success stuff is still just 10% of the formula. And 10% is pathetically small compared to the 80% that depends on where you were born and what family you came from. And of course, appearance. Because people judge you by how you look. I remember one moment from my own life. I showed up to a work meeting dressed like crap, just whatever I had on. People treated me like trash. Snide comments, disrespect. That went on until they saw the numbers, the actual performance metrics I brought in. Instant shift. Suddenly, I wasn't the outsider. I was the leader in the room. Did I become a better person in 5 seconds? It's just that people don't care who you are. They care about your stats and your look. At this point, I'm leaning toward one idea. If you don't have the looks, if you don't have the success case, if you don't have the luxury apartment or lifestyle, then you need to create the illusion of all of it. Because once the illusion is strong enough, reality will start to align with it. People will treat you based on what they see, not who you are. Of course, crafting that illusion is not easy. It's a skill set in itself, a full-time profession. In my entire life, I've had only one truly successful project. During that project, I made enough money in 3 months to buy an apartment. And I can honestly say, a big part of that success came down to luck. I happened to become a relatively successful TikTok creator with a total of around 600 million views across my content. And there were several moments where luck clearly played a role. 1. The very first video I uploaded. It wasn't professional. It wasn't high quality. But within 2 days, it hit 400,000 views. That early result gave me belief. It told me, this works. And from that moment on, I started working like a madman. 2. I got lucky again by stumbling into the right connection between content format and traffic monetization. That allowed me to actually turn those views into money, which is something most creators never figure out. 3. And the biggest stroke of luck, I had the right partner, a solid manager. Without him, I wouldn't have made anything. If I had ended up with an amateur or someone shady, all my previous advantages would have meant nothing. So yeah, it wasn't just one lucky break. It was a sequence of lucky breaks. And unless you get that entire sequence, success can still slip right through your hands. And honestly, I don't even know how to end this. Because let's be real, someone who hasn't left their home in 3 years probably isn't in a position to give advice to Americans or to anyone living in a free country. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're the successful one. Maybe you've figured something out that I missed. If you have, I'd genuinely appreciate hearing it. If you noticed any blind spots in my story, anything I'm not seeing, feel free to drop a comment. I'll read them all. And if this video doesn't go viral, if only 3 people watch it, that's fine too. I'll keep going, because at this point, I've already spent 3 years inside, and who knows how many more under martial law. So I'll keep trying, because that's the only thing I still know how to do.